I know we are responsible, when we hook the chassis, we make sure that, the tire and the mud flaps and, like something you can see from outside, we can check that. But I have a ticket here that I got. The chassis had some defect underneath. I'm not capable to check. So
how much is the ticket for?
I have a $248, and then I was stuck for 3 hours, and so I would like to address a few points, if I may. Drivers care about safety, but the system at the port makes our job dangerous. For us, it's personal. We take our lives in our hands every time when we get behind the wheel. We do everything we can to drive safely, but the system is rigged against us. We are paid very little for our loads, and we get too few loads to make a living. The companies then extract so many different fish that sometimes we cannot afford basic things like new tires or my truck for a service. I should not have to choose between feeding my family and safety for myself and others I share the road with. Port drivers stand together to make the companies and the terminals fix safety problems and get fair pay system for the drivers that are making them successful. But we need you, the Seattle City Council, to hold the companies responsible for create safe and fair system. We are the backbone of the local economy.
Yes.
Everything we move from one spot to other, that's like day-to-day life for everybody. From food, clothing, anything, you name it, that we move it from one part to another. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. I've never been in this kind of...
You're doing great, Yusuf. Thank you.
Yes.
So we're running out of time, but I got I think 3 suggestions on maybe how we move forward. First, the heavy haul corridor. I think we need to continue moving on that, and I will work with Councilmember Rasmussen, who chairs the Transportation Committee, and see if we can get a briefing in his committee on status and maybe a timeline and some next steps on the heavy haul corridor. That sounds like it would address some of the concerns and would help the port and all of us in your competitive, your competition with other ports up and down and soon to be all around the world. One of the things that I've heard from the police department, we haven't got into it too much, is this issue of and Yusuf, you highlighted it, of tickets that you're being cited for something with money you may or may not even have for a problem that it's hard to imagine how you should have figured out. And so I'd like to explore in the next month or two legislation that would allow us to issue citations depending on the infraction, not just to the driver, but to maybe the chassis owner, or if it's overweight, to whoever's responsible for putting an overweight load on a truck. Again, the overweight, at least within a heavy haul corridor, would be addressed at some point, although I imagine not all trucks would stay within the heavy haul corridor. So I think working on a solution for the weight is important. And I'd like to maybe have some discussions offline with the appropriate folks at the port to really understand the system. You talked about the 3 E's. Remind me again?
Education, engineering, and enforcement.
Okay, and so the education and enforcement we need to do. The engineering, I'm assuming that covers the systems that we design. And I'm really worried if our safety is dependent on a driver like Yusuf making a decision between whether he's going to feed his family or make a repair to his truck, that we're setting the system up to fail. And maybe we can talk about designing that system so that the proper inspections are done before they leave, and we'll make sure that drivers have the resources to make the repairs that we all want to see on the roads. And as we've all said numerous times, the maritime industry and the freight that moves through this town is critical to the economy and to all of us. And so we have a shared interest in making sure this works going forward. Councilmember Harold, do you have anything else?
No, I think this is a good discussion. I look forward to keeping it alive. I'll be on the Transportation Committee as well to see it on that end as well.